Hello everyone and welcome to my next video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Hail to the King, because Noctis has returned with his level 70 awakening and his rework, and he is ready to show just about everyone why he has been billed as quite possibly the strongest character to grace Global Opera Omnia for the entirety of the Cosmos era, perhaps with like one or two exceptions, but yeah, certainly the strongest character we've had by far. The guy is absolutely nuts and I love it. So I figured, what better way to showcase how good he is now than taking him solo through his own Lost Chapter quest. So yeah, with regard to Noctis, fun fact is that I've never played Final Fantasy 15. Like, it's on the cards. Like, I do plan to play it at one time. Same thing with Type 0. Like, I plan to play that as well, but I never actually played it. But when I saw what Noctis was capable of back in the level 60s era, and I saw how fun his kit looked, and you know, the kind of longevity he had, and the shenanigans he had with launchers and turn manipulation, I was like, there's no way I'm not pulling for this guy. He looks really fun. So I did, and it took me 70k gems in the end, and this was before the pity system, so thank God I actually got it, otherwise I would probably have gone even harder. But yeah, his EX was initially quite painful, but I remember people around that time saying that, like, you know, oh, he's quite good, you know, but he falls off, like he's not going to last past the final event, or you know, he's not going to do this or that. But goddamn, they were so wrong. Like, Noctis's kit has so much utility in it when it's used properly. He is a lot stronger than he was given credit for, even on his initial release, because like, he was the first character to be able to launch every enemy on the goddamn screen with an ability. And in fact, until Lael came along with his Gay Bulk, he was still the only one who had an AoE launch skill. Like, that's just insane. And he was the first character to have the kind of turn-stealing shenanigans with his plus abilities. I know that Realm and Locke got them later on, but you know, when you use the plus versions of his abilities, he moves directly before the enemy. And combine that with his launching and the kind of longevity he had a shit ton of skill uses compared to other characters, even when he was initially released, that I just thought, yeah, there's so much potential this guy has, and a lot of people are overlooking him. Like, real talk, I think it was something like Cloud, Selphie, and Bahamut. Cloud, Selphie, and Noctis in Bahamut was my OG launch meta before Lael got here, and it really did a lot of work. In fact, in some cases, it scored as well, if not better, than using Squall back when Squall was like insane. Like, because you could launch one enemy with Cloud, and then you could sort of launch the other enemy with Noctis, and then dump Cloud's Brave, and then Cloud could use Meteor Rain on the other enemy, and you would get rid of both Cloud and Noctis's Brave, and then Noctis could use his EX. It was great. And his rework in level 70 just makes him that much better at everything that he does. Like, he still plays like Noctis, he's just an insanely better version of that. So yeah, it's going to be real fun. He's one of the most fun. There's a lot of fun characters being released in the game lately, I'm going to have to be honest. Like Alice, Vayne, Lael, Pain, Warrior of Light, now Noctis as well. There's a lot of even Lightning rework. There's a lot of really fun characters that are coming out right now, and even though the bosses, we have such powerful characters with Warrior of Light and Lena and Noctis and you know, Vayne and all these people, that the bosses really can't do much. As long if you're using the strong characters, they're just basically glorified punching bags at the moment, HP sponges. But despite that, the characters themselves are fun enough to play that I'm still having a blast with the game. In fact, it might be the most fun I've had with Opera Omnia since I started playing, with the exception of like when Sephiroth was released, because he is a favourite of mine. So without further ado, let's jump into this and see how well we do. So for this one, I'm bringing Noctis with a Kiss This Non-Friend and a Shiva summon. So there are two ways, in my opinion, to clear this stage with Noctis solo. The first way is to have a Squall Friend and a Bahamut summon. So you do shit tons of burst damage against the bosses in AoE. Unfortunately, I can't find any Squall Friends on my list, so I'm going to be doing things a little bit differently. And I'll bring a Kiss This Non-Friend, and basically we're going to play Divide and Conquer. We're going to push one enemy all the way back, and then we're going to focus down the other one before they can really take many turns, and then we're going to turn our attention back to the enemy that we delayed. And the Shiva summon is better for this because of the bonus speed passive. And it does actually put more of a spotlight on Noctis to do it this way as well. So you're going to see just why he's said to be so strong. I know some people don't necessarily follow why a character is said to be so hyped up. They just kind of know that he is. But you're going to see it in action right now. So I've actually got all of his passives. I've got his crystal level 70, his Bloomstone passive, and his 70/70 passive. His Bloomstone is very important for him. If you have Noctis fully geared up, use a Bloomstone, and if you didn't save one, shame on you, and just give him the next one you can, because it's really important to his kit. Or I should say, it's one of the strongest additional abilities that we have so far right now in the game. I've not found any artifacts for him yet. These are actually the artifacts that I found for my Dogas, the Silvers, back when his event first released. And they're actually pretty good, they're not bad. So I don't really feel like an urgent need to farm like a degenerate just yet, because I'm probably going to do that on the Sync event, because he should be Symmetry for that. And I still find it kind of funny that her name is pronounced Sync. In fact, even if you look at the Japanese, I think it's written like Shinku, whereas in French it would actually be Sank, but that's a completely different matter. That's just me being a linguistic nitpicker, I suppose. But anyway, without further ado, let's jump into it and see what we can do. So on this wave, we want to target the wolf and use Shooting Star, which is now a brave HP attack. It's not a brave attack anymore, thank God. And because that lets the birds will fall over, and they'll let us use our abilities. It'll give us an extra turn. So you see, both enemies have got inflicted with a frame debuff, which is new to Noctis's rework, which is called Point Blank Warp, and it drops enemy defense by 20%. The non-plus versions of both Shooting Star and Warp Strike will inflict Point Blank Warp, and not only does that drop defense, but what that means is that every time you use a plus version of the ability, you trigger a follow-up Warp Strike on the enemy, which is as ridiculous as it sounds. And when you get Omega stacks to 5, your HP plus will also trigger a follow-up, which is exactly as ridiculous as it sounds. So here you'll see that we'll use Warp Strike plus, and then we'll hit, and then we'll do another one, which is honestly just stupid, like in the best way possible. So for this wave, I'm going to use Shooting Star plus on A, because that will break A, and then it will break B, so A will go back to the front of the turn order, and the plus versions of the skills move your next turn to directly before the opponent. So because they won't change positions, we'll get an extra turn straight away, as you can see. And then we can just use a Warp Strike. So much fun, man. Like, rework Noctis is just an absolute monster. Yeah. So here I am going to use Conjure Omega to get him up to 4 stacks. And then I'm going to use Warp Strike Plus, get him to 5 stacks, and then he's maxed out on Omega. Which was probably a bad idea, because I didn't have Point Blank Warp on the enemy at that point in time. But it's fine, it'll work out. So if I use Warp Strike Plus here, we'll get a follow-up attack on him. And then I can honestly just use HP plus, which also triggers a follow-up. So it's exactly as ridiculous as it looks. So I'll use Shooting Star over here. And what should I do here? I just think I'll just HP plus. Okay, apologies for that little jump cut there. I have returned, and we are back in this wave. So I had to reset the wave a few times, because one condition to being able to do this successfully is that Noctis takes a turn before both of the bosses, and that just makes this a hell of a lot easier. Unfortunately, the first couple of times I tried it, he didn't. So that was a bit of a problem, because the bosses would go into their invisible, like their turn hiding shenanigans, and yeah, it would just make this a hell of a lot more difficult than it honestly has to be. So as a result, I've had to reset it, and now we've got it so that Noctis takes a turn before these things. So what we're going to do is we're going to target A and use Shooting Star Plus so that we trigger the launch and we break both enemies. So we're taking a turn before them, and then we've set up B for the launch. So you can see here that we've got 1 turn of Armiga left, which essentially means that we have to use Conjure Armiga now if we don't want to use Set Warp Advance, which I'm saving these for later on in the boss wave because it will just make things a hell of a lot easier for burst damage. So we're going to go straight into Summon right now. No questions asked. And basically I'm going to be focusing down A, so I'm going to be doing damage on A, and B is going to be the one that we delay. So there we've got our Omega 5 back. I'm going to use Shooting Star now, so that it will get the point blank warp debuff on both of them, which also will result in Kistis having a better turn after we swap her in, because the debuffs on the enemies will trigger her aura. So we're just going to go out here, and then we are going to go goodbye, and goodbye, and goodbye. We don't want to have to deal with you yet. We're dealing with A right now. So now we're at this point. We just want to spam HP++ as much as we can, if we can, because we've got the point blank warp debuff. So we're just going to deal a hell of a lot of damage just by regular HP attacks, if I'm going to be honest. I might as well break B while I can to knock it back. And we are definitely going to need to use to refresh our Omega buff, as we see here. So that means I'm going to use Warp Strike this turn, and then we can Warp Strike Plus. And Shooting Star Plus. And we've got our Set Warp Advances left, so I'm probably going to use one of those right here. So here it's unbroken, so we can use HP++. And then we can use Shooting Star Plus. And you see, part of what makes Noctis so good in solo is just this absolute lunacy right here. We use Warp Strike Plus to refresh Omega. And A is no longer a problem. HP++. And again. And again. Okay, so unfortunately we do. Oh, okay. So we can use Warp Strike Plus here, but I'm not going to do that because you see he's got 1 turn of Omega left. If I use Warp Strike Plus, that's going to move it's going to break the enemy, but then move his next turn before the enemy. But if I use Conjure Omega, it's going to break him, so that then I can still get that extra turn in. So that's what I'm going to do. And we get that nice little overflow boost there because of the crystal passive as well. So then I'm just going to use Shooting Star Plus to maximise the length of time that Omega lasts for. And then that's it. We're out of skills. But that's fine. We should only need 1 more turn to finish this. And you are out of here. No problem. No breaks, no HP damage, no problem. So that was my solo of Noctis Lost Chapter. Again, I did need a few resets on the last wave there because it is important that you get a turn before the bosses. But as long as you do, then you should be able to handle it. And hopefully that kind of demonstrates on just how powerful Noctis's kit is and the kinds of things that you can do when you set him up properly. You've just got to pay attention. As long as you understand that the point blank warp debuff can only be inflicted by the non-plus version of the skills, and you only warp strike plus and his EX can refresh the Amiga stacks. You've just got to pay attention to the Amiga stacks, because if you let that fall off you lose so much potential because you don't get his HP plus. Other than that, he's going to be fun to set up launchers. He provides a max brave speed aura to the party. He's just a ton of fun to play. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed playing it, and I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, see you later.